You all know there are hundreds of betting sites out there, but don't be fooled. Some sites are legal in some states only, some sites pay in Bitcoin, and some sites have even been hacked. However, BetUS has been in business for over 30 years. They have future bets that are paying out in the thousands, and there's still time for you to bet on the Super Bowl, the National Championship, and even the NBA Championship. Just use the QR code right here, and it'll take you to the BetUS site. BetUS. Check it out and bet responsibly. Are you a fellow car guy? I have a 2008 Ford Mustang GT convertible, and nothing makes me happier in that car than when it's nice and clean. You know who helps me get there? RevAutoCarCare.com. They help me get that pony looking as nice and shiny and ready for any of the car meetups that are all around the great city of El Paso. Spoil your car and go to RevAutoCarCare.com/Tipton and view all the inventory they have and find out what works for you to help make your ride shine. RevAutoCarCare.com/Tipton. Use promo code Tipton33 at checkout to save 15%.
Inside, Zubats. Wembanyama's there again. 4 blocks. Barnes got a 3. This is what happened, a little dust up at the end. Barnes hits the 3 off that Wemby block. Zubats then kind of shoves Victor, and he goes flying. Wemby was hot.
Yeah, well, he didn't kind of shove him. He ran right at Victor and throws him into the ground. And you see, he goes right after Victor there, and that should have been a technical.
Welcome in, everybody, to the Tipping Point with Mike Tipton. That was courtesy of our friends over at FanDuel Sports Network. Most of the NBA games now, I believe, are broadcast on FanDuel Sports Network. That created a little bit of a dust-up yesterday in the city of San Antonio as the San Antonio Spurs were taking on the LA Clippers. San Antonio, obviously, it's not going to be a great year for them. Like, I believe that with the San Antonio Spurs, they will be just like a middle-of-the-road team this year, right? Like, obviously, they're going to get better as things progress with the San Antonio Spurs. Remember, we are currently live on YouTube, on X, on Facebook, and, of course, on Roku with National Streaming Sports. Shout out to our friends over at National Streaming Sports for being a part of what it is that we do here with the Tipping Point with Mike Tipton. See that my guy Tommy Carranza is tuned in right now saying good morning, Tip. Good morning to you, Tommy. I appreciate you tuning in yesterday to the professional sports show, the National Professional Sports Show. Great debate, great conversation going on over there. We'll have some I'll go back and revisit a couple of the topics that I didn't get to really voice my opinion on. And if you watch the show, you get to know I might be a little too opinionated at times, but you know what? It's a fun time, and that's all that matters. But going back to that San Antonio Spurs highlight that we just saw, and I'll play it one more time here in just a little bit, but going back to that San Antonio Spurs highlight that we just saw, you see that Victor Wembanyama gets pushed in the back, tempers flare. He looks super weird, like a baby giraffe running after somebody whenever he's angry. It's kind of cute that someone that big and that small, like skinny, can be that angry. Like, it was always like, oh, that's cute. Like, what's he gonna do, right? Like, come on. But it led to a conversation that I don't think Victor Wembanyama needs to be the voice for. And like I said, I'm gonna play this highlight one more time, and you can see where he gets shoved.
Powell inside, Zubats. Wembanyama's there again. 4 blocks. Barnes got a 3. This is what happened, a little dust up at the end. Barnes hits the three off that Wemby block. Zubats then kind of shoves Victor, and he goes flying. Wemby was hot.
Yeah, well, he didn't kind of shove him. He ran right at Victor and throws him into the ground. And you see, he goes right after Victor there, and that should have been a technical.
And there you go. You see it right there. He kind of shoves him a little, gives him a little chicken wing, and Wembanyama goes flying. And I wonder how much of that is Wemby's built like a twig, right? Like, I love me some Victor Wembanyama. I think that guy is going to be a problem whenever he adds on another 15, 20 pounds because he's just so gifted at the game of basketball. It's also so unfair that someone 7'5" can do the stuff that Victor Wembanyama does. But I also feel like because he's built like a twig, that anytime someone puts a little bit of, a little chicken wing on him, that he's going to wind up just flying. Like, I don't think that was a flop. Don't get me wrong. Like, I genuinely do not believe that Victor Wembanyama flopped. I think he got, it got a little physical, and it was too much for that big, wiry frame of his, right? It's like whenever you see a toddler and they're running and their head gets too heavy and they like start moving forward and they lose their balance and stuff. That's what it looks like with Victor Wembanyama because he's so big. Obviously, he's got a ton of grace, and he can run and he can move. He's a very fluid athlete. If you've seen the way the guy stretches, it's insane to think about. I believe the word was pliability because that was brought up by Tom Brady. But I also don't feel like it's anything that bad. And Tommy's saying, no, it was a flop. A part of me wants to say that, right? Now, you can tell at the beginning of the highlight, Zubac was pretty upset, right? Like, he felt like he got away, that Wemby got away with a little bit of a block. And if you watch the game, like I watched the game, oh, God. If you watch the game like I watched the game, you would see that the referees kind of swallowed the whistle there, and they let him play, which I'm all about, right? Like, I don't want to see 1,000 free throws happening. As Tommy Cananzo says, that's what they do in San Antonio. I can't even argue that, right? But you know what else they do? Win championships. Got him. But the whistle was swallowed by the refs, which I like, right? Like, that's the way it should be. And whenever you're one of those big guys, that you're going to get bullied around, right? Like, it's going to be physical no matter who you are. How many times was Shaq fouled and it wasn't called? How many times did Shaq foul somebody and it wasn't called just based off of size, right? Like, the battles that I always equated to were like the Yao Ming taking on Shaq battles, right? Those battles of just, I love whenever I get to say these things from the WWE, just two big, meaty men slapping meat. Like, that's what that was. Also, I don't think I'm the one that needs to be saying that. But that's it. Like it's just two big dudes going right at each other, right? Like a couple of bulls just going right at each other. You cannot, if you're Victor Wembanyama, you cannot go to the press conference and say this.
It's a hard thing, to fight because it feels unfair sometimes, but of course we talk about it with the staff, and there is some stuff I have to do to help myself. First of all, being strong and not bailing out shots, but also also there is some work to do, like talking to the ref, of course, explaining myself, but it's it's, for me, it doesn't feel like it's something I should influence. It's like, I'm a basketball player. I'm here to play, and this is this is why it's frustrating. It's not my job to do politics. Yeah, exactly.
Colleague Raul, the Associated Press, said that Zubats did apologize afterward. Mm-hmm. Said that it was just he's not that kind of player.
So it's not even about Zubac, man. It was just frustration. No matter who it was, Zubac is a nice guy.
Zubats is a nice guy. I think that's been a thing that's been kind of spoken about around the league the entirety that Zubats has been in the NBA, which I want to say is about 6 or 7 years now, right? Like being traded around, moved around, stuff like that. It was always like, oh, this is a good dude. He's not going to be like the best center in the NBA, but he's serviceable, right? Like he can get you some minutes. And whenever you see Zubats, again, like you can see at the beginning of the clip, he gets frustrated because Victor Wembanyama gets away with what Zubats thought was a foul. He goes, and again, like it wasn't a shove. Like I didn't see the arm come out or go up or a couple of hands push or anything like that. It was just he bodied him a little bit. And Wemby's what, 245 pounds? He's 7'5" and 245 pounds, right? Like you're going to get bullied around and do all those things. But to come out and be like, oh, well, it's just not, good basketball and I don't, it's not up to me to try to influence the referees. That's what you're doing at the press conference. Give me a couple of calls. I'm saying this as a Spurs fan. I don't like that nonsense. I was going to say something else right there. I don't like that type of nonsense of don't, like if I'm being bullied around or pushed around, like give me the call. You got to earn the call, guy. Like, again, we were talking about this yesterday. National Streaming Sports, we're doing the professional sports show. Keith Engel and I, we're kind of on the same page here with the Kansas City Chiefs are the best team in the NFL. They're going to get calls. That's what happens. Winners get calls historically. Even the Dallas Mavericks, J.J. Barea, whenever he's bodying LeBron James is going to get the call over J.J. Barea all the time. Right? Like that's just the way that it goes. But whenever you look at sports in general, that's what sports are. Is it fair? I don't know. I also don't care, right? Like I don't want to see a game full of a bunch of free throws. I don't want to see a game where James Harden is leading the NBA in scoring because he gets to the free throw line 18 times a game and is scoring 18 points from the stripe, but 36 total points for the season, right? Like that's not fun. That to me is the stuff that helped kill basketball in that late 2010s run that it had, right? Where basketball's trying to reinvent itself to get back to where it is. And as much as I love Victor Wembanyama, as much as I love the San Antonio Spurs, they cannot let him go out there as a second-year player that's 20 years old and say, the league needs to do this for me. You haven't earned it yet, my guy. Yes, you are a freak athlete. I don't think we will ever see another 7'5" guy that can do what Victor Wembanyama does. But you're in the middle of your second year, you haven't even played 2 full seasons, and you're already asking for calls? I don't like that, man. As a San Antonio Spurs fan, I am not happy with that type of representation of my franchise, of what I like with my sports, right? You're a big dude. You're tall. I say this to my kid all the time, like my son, Jericho. He's a big kid. He played basketball. He was towering over a lot of kids, but he was afraid to body them because he didn't want to be big or looked at as the bully. And I had to tell him all the time, buddy, you're big. Just be big. That's all you got to do. That's all Wembanyama's got to do. Just be big. Don't go out there and complain about this. Zubats, really? That's the guy that you're going to go after? And I get it. It's adding up, like all the frustration. He says it too. Like it's not just Zubats. It's a whole bunch of frustrations of not getting the calls. You're 20 in your second season, the middle of your second season in the NBA. You're not going to get the calls. LeBron didn't even get calls halfway through his second season. Hell, I don't think LeBron got calls until he finally won a championship. You got to do some winning before you start getting the calls your way. Again, this is coming from a San Antonio Spurs fan. I don't want, and I feel like I shouldn't say this because I'm kind of, it feels like I'm letting my bias show, but I feel like that's the Chris Paul effect. Because how many times did we see Chris Paul in the entirety of his career where, yes, he's one of the greatest of all time. Chris Paul is. but there's always going to be that knock because it felt like all Chris Paul did his entire career, dating back to when he got out of the NBA or came to the NBA out of Wake Forest, that all he did was just complain to the referees. And you still see that from him, complaining to the referees. Now is that rubbing off on Victor Wembanyama? And I hope to God it isn't, because I was hoping that Chris Paul would go to San Antonio and teach the game the right way. And maybe I was just being some sort of a jerk, thinking that maybe, just maybe, Chris Paul would be the type of player that I would want Chris Paul to be on my team. And I feel like that could be the Chris Paul effect for the San Antonio Spurs. I feel like that could be why Victor Wembanyama now is like, oh, I should be getting every call. Chris Paul should have gotten every call. And it just doesn't work that way. It sucks to say that. Like as a Spurs fan, as someone that loves basketball, I'm 100% with Tommy wherever you see the flopping happen, right? Where LeBron James's big ass is just the finger poke of doom from Hulk Hogan, and he just goes flying over to the sidelines. Like, that stuff over a period of time is what has killed off basketball. I've put it out there a bunch of times on various social media channels. Why don't you watch the NBA? And I always get back the flopping, the drama, the complaining to the refs. A lot of people are saying the three-point shot, which I think is just stupid. You're listening to a narrative. And, of course, they don't like certain players because of their perceived political stances, right? But if you're going to try to change the game, like what Adam Silver is wanting to do now, you're going to have to realize you're going to piss off a ton of people that are out there. And I'm segueing that into Adam Silver yesterday says on the Dan Patrick Show, quote, as we get more involved in global basketball, the NBA is the only league that plays 48 minutes. And I am a fan of 4 10-minute quarters. I'm not sure that many others are. Putting aside what it means for the records and things like that, yeah, I think that a 2-hour format for a game is more consistent with modern television habits. I know with baseball that people have complained time and time again about how long the game is. I don't necessarily get that complaint from the NFL. And I've never really heard that complaint with the NBA. Is saving 8 minutes of game time really going to be the thing that saves the NBA? I don't think so. Because I feel like a lot of the reason why, and maybe it's just me being in my little bubble of I love basketball, so I listen to all these stupid ass forums and things of that nature. Jesus, I'm just letting it fly today. I'm sorry, guys. That the NBA itself becoming more of a global brand, the NBA itself becoming more of a European style league, because now we have all sorts of people playing basketball. It's not just American driven anymore, right? Like, look at the big stars in the NBA. Nikola Jokic, Luka Doncic, Victor Wembanyama, Giannis Antetokounmpo. You can go list after list after list. It is a global game. And it feels like, and I'm stopping short of saying it's like xenophobia, but it feels like the more that you lean towards the European style of basketball, where yes, we have more flopping, and yes, we have more outside shots and things of that nature. Big dudes not being the traditional big dude that we grew up watching back in the 90s and early 2000s, right? The more you lean into that, the more you alienate the American sports fan, right? For me, I love it. I'm all about it, right? But I also don't want 10-minute quarters. I don't want there was talk about, changing the free throw line and the lane and all that stuff to kind of lean more into the international style of basketball. And for me, no. Right? Like, we've spent so much time with this version of the NBA. I don't think a 10-minute quarter, shaving 2 minutes off each quarter, is going to increase the ratings for the NBA. The NBA is a fun product if you actually like basketball. It's the people that don't like basketball that are going to be the loud, vocal minority that are going to go out and say, oh, the game's got to change. You're not going to watch it either way. Right? Like it's the people that yell and scream into the abyss of, this needs to change. Oh, do you watch it? No. But it needs to change so that way I can feel more comfortable with it. What's your stake in the game? To me, like, the NBA product is fine. Obviously, I feel like they have an issue with marketing, but I feel like the NBA product is fine. And a lot of the times, I think one of the things that people got a big problem with was Steph Curry looks like he can be the normal guy, and any one of us can be out there just hoisting up three-pointers, right? Steph Curry relates to us more than LeBron James because very few of us are 6'9", 280-pound freak athletes, right? But if you look at the NBA and you see Nikola Jokic, that walking loaf of bread, basically, out there playing basketball, I think that relates more to, like, most people, right? Like, super unathletic, can just hit a couple of shots, can make some cool passes every now and then. That's what the NBA needs to embrace. But it's hard for the NBA to embrace that whenever all you show of Nikola Jokic is him complaining that I just want to go home. Because he looks at the NBA as a job. It is his job at the end of the day, right? How many of us love every aspect of our job? And the fact of the matter is, like, very few of us, right? Love every aspect of your job where, like, you're not tired. You don't complain about it at all, right? Like, that's where Nikola Jokic is. He's more connectable, I guess, to us as everyday human beings than any of the other NBA players are. And I don't think the NBA does a good enough job of marketing that, right? If you already know that this is the way this dude feels, he wins a championship, he's like, the job is done, we can go home now. Put that in an effing commercial on ESPN where they're, like, done with SportsCenter and they do, like, a press conference at the end of it. And it's like, Nikola, what do you feel about that show? The show's done. We can go home. Oh, well, what about, like, this parade or this and that? There's a parade. I don't want to go to the parade. I just want to go home. All of us have done that at our job. Hell, I work from here and I do that. But that, to me, like, that the NBA is full of characters that they can really promote, and they just don't do it. It's the same issue that I have with Major League Baseball, right? Shohei Ohtani, international star, biggest star in the game, but you don't market him correctly. How the hell is Shohei Ohtani doing New Balance commercials, and his introduction to a major audience that doesn't watch baseball is his interpreter was stealing money from him? I know the article came out last week, I believe it was, of Ippei Matsuhara pretending to be Shohei Ohtani to get a car loan. Yeah. How is that not a bigger story? That the modern day Babe Ruth was robbed by his translator for, what was it, 16 million, almost $80 million? But that's not anything anyone cares about, right? Like, it's some dude. Why is it that we pick and choose which athletes it is that we're going to actually get behind and support? Unless they're on our team, right? Like, I guarantee people like Tommy Cananza, who are Dallas Maverick fans, or, you know, even LA Laker fans that are out there that hate Victor Wembanyama right now, if he was on your team, you'd be in love with the guy, right? Why can't we just appreciate greatness as we are watching it? Why do we have to try to change the rules? Why do we have to try to do all of these things to make a small audience happy? Adrian Zamudio saying good morning. Good morning to you, sir. I forgot to mention at the top of the show that we will not have Ryan Hollins on today. Unfortunately for us, there was a scheduling conflict because the Houston Rockets have a game this afternoon. So he's got to do prep for that. He's got to do TV hits on the I guess the Houston affiliate, FanDuel Southwest. Is that the same as the Spurs and the Mavericks? I got to figure that one out. But yes, the FanDuel Southwest network. So he's got to be doing hits for them all day long, trying to break down the Houston Rockets and how well their season has been. He and I are going to have a recording for a couple of shows that I'm going to wind up missing coming up in the next couple of weeks as I go out of town. So we'll get some of the ball rolling on that as well. But I feel like that's enough of the NBA talk. I'd love to see what other people think about that, because I don't think that I necessarily align with the majority of people that are out there that consume the NBA, right? Like, I know with me, I love basketball. I'll watch the NBA Summer League. I'll watch the G League if it's on. I'll watch college. I'll watch any of that stuff. Augustine asking if I am going to the Super Bowl. Unfortunately, I will not. I guess I could announce it now. I will be going over to Mexico. I'm going to go to Guadalajara on the 6th of February with Jose Cuervo. We're going to be doing the Cuervo tequila train down in Guadalajara. It's going to be from the 6th to the 10th, I believe. That 10th is when I'm flying back. 6th is when I'm flying out. So it's going to be a pretty cool trip to do that. I wanted to go to New Orleans, but when an opportunity like this comes up to go out, have some fun, maybe make a contact with a potential sponsor, you got to go out and do that. Then, of course, later on in February, going to Glendale, Arizona to cover the U.S. women's national team as they'll be taking on, I want to say Brazil, but it feels wrong, so I'll have to find out who exactly it is. Augustine saying, hey, I'm going to Mexico City the 6th to the 10th. LOL, you drunk? He also goes on to say, I love basketball, but the NBA has lost its piss ass. I don't know position. Maybe I'm gonna have to figure that one out. Augustine saying you're gonna love Guadalajara. I'm hoping, right? Like, I've been to Mexico City, I've been to Juarez. That is my introduction into all of Mexico. So I'm hoping that maybe going over to Guadalajara, I'm just really down for that tequila train, man. Like, it's been something that was like shown to me. I don't know how it happened. Like, Cuervo reaches out to me. I don't know how these people figure out who I am. They reach out to me. They're like, hey, we've seen you drink tequila on your shows before. Do you want to come out and do this thing? And after a couple of negotiating, we get some stuff working for us. We get some stuff out there. Augustine saying Guadalajara is like LA without the fires. Come on, man. I think it's a little too early for that, Augustine. Come on, man. Jesus. Oh, goodness. And I should have taken a phone call right now because that was from the VA. So, Jesus, man. I tell them all the time, 8 o'clock to 9 o'clock, not available. Call me literally any time after 9 o'clock. I'll be fine. But no, they have to call at 8:28. It's insane. Augustine saying he is the Al Bundy of radio. Built like Al Bundy. I can see that. I can see that 100%. But again, the NBA possibly changing down to 10 minutes. There's a problem, I believe, with the Stars always constantly asking for fouls, begging for fouls, arguing with referees all the time. I get it. Like, I believe that's a part of like fan culture that we have now, right? Like, where there's got to be a scapegoat. Something didn't go my way, so now I've got to be angry and upset and all of these little things that are going on with how I feel about sports, right? Like, something didn't go my way, so now I've got to complain. And I feel like that's been a thing that's happened in sports for a long time. Augustine saying 10 minutes. These guys for real? How embarrassing. Are these guys for real? How embarrassing. And what they're saying is because the NBA is the only league that plays 48 minutes, right? Like, even in college, it's a 40-minute game. Internationally, it's a 40-minute game. Blah, 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 blah. I saw that yesterday and thought to myself, okay, well, what about records, right? Like how would records go? If anything, it helps preserve some of the records because the way that they just shoot the ball now, with how much more athletic they are now, scoring titles and things like that are going to get obliterated. So I understand, I guess, that aspect of it, of like, let's try to keep the sanctity of the game. But if the NBA continues to go more global with their branding, that's when they start losing the ratings that they have here at home. And here in the United States, those ratings, those games, things like that, that's what ultimately pays the bills, right? Like the NBA having a huge TV contract in Canada doesn't matter. The NBA having a huge TV contract in the United States, that matters. Even if they get the huge deal that they had in China, it wasn't it like it's lucrative, but it's only a small percentage. I want to say it's like 5% of the overall revenue that the NBA makes, right? And China loves basketball. It's just, I don't believe that 10 minutes is going to help save the game. And I also don't believe the game needs saving. I think the game is fine. Start marketing your stars. Start marketing and leaning into their weird idiosyncrasies, right? Like I saw a commercial for the NBA, and they have like Wembanyama and Antetokounmpo and Jason Tatum, and you can tell they had them in like different spots, shooting it in front of a green screen, and they made Jason Tatum so much smaller than Antetokounmpo and Wembanyama, where in reality he's 2 inches smaller than these guys. Augustine saying soccer is 45 minutes per half plus the added time. Yeah. I mean, obviously different sports, things like that, but I don't think the NBA's problem is, again, time, right? Like I don't think I've ever really ran into someone whose chief complaint about the NBA is it's too long. You might get people that say it's boring because they don't like threes, but it's because they're nerds and they don't know how to play basketball. But I've never heard someone complain about the NBA the way that we hear the complaints about Major League Baseball, right? These are boring games. We need to save the time. The average time of a Major League Baseball game was 2 hours and 15 minutes. And then we brought in the pitch clock. And now it feels so much faster because it's 2 hours and 8 minutes. Whew, we saved 7 minutes. Oh, man. 7 minutes made a huge difference. Meanwhile, we don't talk about the NFL being a 3-hour broadcast with 11 minutes of actual action. On average, the NFL game has 11 minutes of something going on. Remember, at the most, you'll get a 7-second play followed by a 40-second clock. Small amount of time leading to a huge chunk to just get ready for the next play. No one talks about that. But we'll talk about the NBA, and we'll talk about soccer, and we'll talk about baseball. All these things are boring, despite them having much more action per capita than that of what the NFL game is. But again, I'm just some dude. Augustine going on to say, but the top teams play about 50 games a year, but it's way more intense. Talking, of course, about soccer, the 45-minute halves and all that stuff. I also saw yesterday some of the stuff that was going on with like UEFA. Great end of the season there, into the regular season for a lot of the teams. I think it was 18 teams yesterday that had a chance to get into like playoff positioning and things like that. Now, obviously, I'm learning about soccer. I'm trying to start learning as I get closer to the World Cup and all the stuff that's going on with that. But man, seeing that you have that many teams in play for postseason type stuff and seeding, to me, is a ton of fun, right? I had to look up the thing right here. I think the top 8 teams that are automatically in. We got Liverpool, Barcelona, Arsenal, Inter, Atletico Madrid, Bayer Leverkusen, Lille, I think is what that's pronounced, and then Aston Villa. And the other teams that finished 9th to 24th, I'm not going to go through all of them, But you've got, Manchester City down towards the bottom. Juventus down towards the bottom. Real Madrid finishing number 11. Bayern Munich finishing number 12. I'm starting to try to get into it. Or Bayern, whatever it is. Again, I'd love to hear you pronounce all the words too, Guy. You stumble over my name. Augustine saying, can I do the soccer portion of this? I've been asking people if they want to come be a part of the show, talk about soccer. Haven't heard you say anything yet. Guy. Let me see. I will put out the link, Augustine. I'll put it here in the comments section if you do want to actually join. Because, again, I want to try to get more people being a part of it. I don't know if I'm going to go the route that a couple of other shows here on National Streaming Sports go, where it's, a ton of people, because I feel like you get kind of lost in the translation there. So maybe just like a person here or there is what we'll do. Kind of like traditional sports radio, but on a streaming platform. And then Augustine saying, of course, I can't right now. I'm in a meeting. Meanwhile, I'm watching the show? Question mark. Handle your business, my dude. If you're in the meeting, you're in the meeting. I'm good with that. That sounds like a fun meeting to be a part of as well. Now, wanted to talk about a couple of things that were happening in the NFL. And one of the things that came up was Bill Belichick saying that Tom Brady should be the new name of the Vince Lombardi Trophy, renaming the Vince Lombardi Trophy after Tom Brady. And there's a part of me that actually agrees with that. Maybe, right? Like obviously I get Vince Lombardi, the legendary Green Bay Packers head coach. He was a guy that won it first, so he's going to be the one that's named after it, right? But if you're going to win the Super Bowl, wouldn't you want the trophy named after the person that connotes winning? Right? Like the NBA, who the hell knows who Larry O'Brien is? But that's the Larry O'Brien trophy. Why not name it the Michael Jordan trophy or even the Bill Russell trophy, despite the fact I know that there's already a Bill Russell trophy that's given out to the team that wins out of the Eastern Conference. But why not name it after the best that there are in the sport? So I'm cool with the idea of floating the idea out there of maybe, just maybe, let's rename the Vince Lombardi trophy after Tom Brady. Bill Belichick says the reason why is because coaches can't win games without the players, and suggested that the Vince Lombardi Trophy be named after Tom Brady, who won an NFL record 7 Super Bowl rings in his career. The quote is, maybe they should name it the Brady Trophy. He did win 7 of them. Players win games. You can't win games without good players. I don't care who the coach is. It's impossible. You can't win games without good players. I found that out when I had Lawrence Taylor and Carl Banks and Harry Carson, Pepper Johnson, Jim Burt, Everson Walls, all those guys at the Giants. And the same thing when we got good at Cleveland and then in New England. I mean, it's Tom Brady, it's Willie McGinnis, it's Mike Vrabel, Teddy Bruschi, and Corey Dillon, Randy Moss. He goes on to name a bunch of his players, and he's like, those guys that won those games, man, I didn't make any tackles. I didn't make any kicks. That was Adam Vinatieri that made at least the kicks, or made those kicks in 4 inches of snow. I love the idea of naming it after Tom Brady. Tommy Cananta saying, rename the AFC trophy if they want, LOL. Hell no. Hell no. To that of Tom Brady. Maybe we should name it after Patrick Mahomes. Oh, I like that idea. I love that idea. Let's name the Vince Lombardi trophy after Patrick Mahomes and just watch the heads explode of all of the Kansas City Chiefs haters. I would absolutely love that. And then Tom Brady says it right there, or Tommy Cananza says it right there. What happens when Patrick Mahomes wins 8 Super Bowls? Are we going to rename it after him? I think we should just do it now. He's already the GOAT. He's already the greatest of all time. Why wouldn't we name it after him? Augustine sent me a photo right now. I'm not too sure what the photo is. It says broadcast is not available. Not 100% sure as to why. Gonna have to look into that. There's literally nothing I can do about it right now, guy. I'm live on multiple platforms. So I'm hoping nothing happened. Maybe just refresh. I don't know what else to tell you, my dude. Hello. Is anybody out there? Can you hear me out there? It's like Titanic. I don't even know if I'm on now on all the other platforms. I legitimately hope I am. I see that people are tuned in on places, but I don't know, man. Like maybe just maybe somewhere I got disconnected and kicked off. Who knows? But yes, what happens when Patrick Mahomes wins 8 Super Bowls? Are we going to rename it after him? Yes. It should already just be named after Patrick Mahomes. I am 100% with it, man. You already know how I feel about Patrick Mahomes being considered one of the greatest of all time. A little sad news, though, that I wanted to get to because I also feel like I am the worst messenger for a lot of things, right? Like, I'm not the type of person that necessarily gets super emotional about things, right? Like I don't get emotional at times that I probably should get emotional, things like that, right? And I thought about this yesterday because I learned the news that an 18-year-old student from Temple University died after he fell from a pole in Philadelphia during the Eagles celebration. And if you saw the celebration in Philadelphia, the parade and all that stuff that they were doing, the fans out there just acting a fool. And I get it, man. Go out, celebrate. Your team did something awesome. They made it to the Super Bowl. Doesn't happen all that often. No matter who your team is, doesn't happen all that often. You're going to lose it or even an opportunity at it much more than you get the opportunities to do it. So I really do. I understand why people would go out and celebrate the way that they celebrate. But to have gunshots in the middle of these celebrations, to have people climbing poles like street lights and things like that, and they fall down and they get hurt, and ultimately like the student succumbs to his brain injuries because of the way that he was celebrating, I tend to not have, I think, the remorse that I should have in situations like this. Because I'm a firm believer in you play dumb games, you win dumb prizes. If you're going to climb a pole, which I'm guessing either electric pole, street light, whatever it is, in cold ass temperatures at night, more than likely drunk, the odds are not in your favor. And this is coming from a dude that drinks a steady amount of alcohol on a regular basis. I don't go out and drive. I don't go out and climb effing poles to see what happens, right? And then it's compounded by what I've been getting on social media over the last couple of days, I guess, right? And I cannot play it here on National Stream of Sports, but I made a meme. Oh no, how dare I make a meme of The Rock. Yes, Dwayne The Rock Johnson. If you live under a rock and you don't know who I'm talking about, hey, you live under The Rock. See what I did there? But if you live under a rock, you don't know who I'm talking about. Dwayne The Rock Johnson, former professional wrestler in the WWE, mega star actor. You should probably know who The Rock is. Goes back to the WWE around this time last year, has a feud with their current champion, Cody Rhodes, and says, because Cody Rhodes trying to finish his story, looks at the camera and says, F your story. I said, that's funny, because all I've been seeing circulated around was these pictures of a crying Jalen Hurts walking off the field as the Kansas City Chiefs are celebrating their Super Bowl victory 2 years ago. And all these people saying, oh man, it's time for the Eagles to get theirs and to make their comeback. So I put The Rock over this picture and it says, F your story, basically to Philadelphia. the amount of Philadelphia Eagles fans that have commented on that post, directing it to Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson, not me, the guy who created it, but Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson, as though it was him who actually posted the thing, made me realize how effing stupid sports fans can be. And these are the same group of people that want to talk negatively about Dallas Cowboys fans and all these other things, and all these fan bases, Philadelphia versus the world, right? You're playing dumb games and you're winning dumb prizes whenever you go out and celebrate the way you celebrate. And if you're not able to distinguish between a joke meme made by a guy whose literal point on there said hashtag NFL memes, I don't know what to do, brother. Are you genuinely that dumb? I hate saying that about people. Are you that dumb? Like, you genuinely think that The Rock said that? Eagles fan thinks The Rock made the post LMAO. I'm telling you. I think that's what I'm going to do, just as another joke, because I love messing with people. I think what I'm going to do as another joke is just go through the comment section and read them in like Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson voice, right? Like, I am genuinely baffled by this happenstance that you could put up a meme on Instagram with a fat dude like me holding a Texas championship belt and a cowboy hat, and people think that it's Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson who said that. And I mean, there was one yesterday that I think I shared out that was like, I used to love your movies, man, but not anymore. And I feel like, okay, like, that's not gonna, I don't feel like, at least that's gonna get back to The Rock in a negative way, that some dude's not gonna watch his movies because of a perceived meme. And I thought it was like just a one-off, right? Just one, one. And it winds up being dozens of comments on it. I'm still getting comments on it. Let me see if I can find one. Look, just opened it up. Gonna go over to Instagram right there. Gonna look over here. We see it right here. Let's see what one of these comments are. And someone puts, "This is fake." Duh. Oh, Philadelphia Eagles fans, you guys are a special group. A very, very, very special group of people. And like, I get it, man. Like, I'm all about fandom. I understand fandom is, once again, fan short for fanatic. So I totally get where people come from with their fanhood, with the way that they want to support teams and love teams and do all those things. But my goodness, do we have to really go this far? What was it? The guy from the Eagles, whenever they won the championship, eating horse turds on the side of the street. Why? Just why? I'd have never, ever in my life would have crossed my mind that that's what I want to do. Maybe it's because I grew up on a farm, right? Like, I grew up around horses and goats and cows and pigs and all kinds of stuff. So I kind of know what that stuff smells like. And I know I don't want it in my olfactory senses. But Jesus Christ, your way of celebrating your team winning the championship is by you eating literal crap? Literal crap. It's mind-blowing to me that this is the way that we celebrate. We climb greased poles and fall and plummet to our death eventually. And I understand that this is a franchise that has been impoverished for the majority of all these people's lives, right? One championship, 59 Super Bowls that we're going to right now. You don't know how to celebrate because you've never been there, right? The Phillies, I think they have won World Series in the last 40 plus years, right? The 76ers are hot garbage. They don't know how to win in Philadelphia. Can somebody please, I am begging you, before your entire fan base goes extinct because it feels like lemmings, each one of them just falling off a cliff, following the other, can someone please teach them how to celebrate? It's so ridiculous, man. I would say act like you've been there before. And they have. It's been, what, 8 years since they won a Super Bowl? 2 years since they've been in one? Act like you've been there before. I feel like I'm just, like I'm losing my mind, man. Anyway. Once again, everybody, thank you for tuning in to The Tipping Point with Mike Tipton. We are live on Roku via National Streaming Sports. It was a great part being a part of the conversation yesterday. Got to meet Mac's brother, Bobby. My middle name, Robert, so 2 Bobbies in the same room. You knew it was going to be a bad time. And he and I dominating the conversation over there, just basically on the same page 99% of the time, until it came to talking about the one and only Jerry Jones. And Jerry Jones, obviously going to be in the news because people have been saying that he dominated the press conference, the introductory press conference, where he was in the spotlight along with new head coach Brian Schottenheimer. And obviously, Jerry Jones is going to have to be there. He plays 3 different roles with the business side of the Dallas Cowboys, right? Like he's the owner, the general manager, president of the team. So obviously, in any introductory press conference, Jerry Jones has to be there. And the reason why I feel like people believe that Jerry Jones dominated the conversation is because most of the highlights that came out of the conversation were of Jerry Jones talking, right? Like, this is how much this team means to me. I'm looking for glory hole. Again, please, someone in Dallas, stop that man. Save him from himself. But I went back and, like an idiot, I watched the introductory press conference all over again with a timer to see who did the majority of the talking. And yes, Jerry Jones did do a slight majority of the talking. It was a, for all intents and purposes, hour-long press conference. Brian Schottenheimer did his thing. Jerry Jones did his thing. And then the questions were asked. So if you're going to be upset about Jerry Jones answering questions from reporters, be upset at the reporters for asking Jerry Jones the questions and ignoring Brian Schottenheimer, who I think all of us agree is only in the NFL because of what his last name is. We spoke about this yesterday on the National Professional Sports Show with National Streaming Sports, and it was along the lines of Brian Schottenheimer in 2010, 2009, whenever he was with the Jets. That was his high point in his career. And the Jets had a number 11 ranked offense with LaDainian Tomlinson, with Mark Sanchez making it to back-to-back AFC championship games because we thought that this was going to be a somewhat decent team. And ultimately, at the end, it was not. Ugh, Jesus. I have an appointment with the VA at 9:30. That's just right down the street. It's not too far, so I'm going to make it on time. But I am so tired of the endless amount, like it's phone call, text message, email about, don't forget about your appointment. After yesterday's phone call that I answered and said, yep, I'm going to be there, text message I replied Y97 to, all these other things. Maybe it's just me. Maybe I'm going insane. I do not like doctor's offices. I do not like hospitals, and they're just going to make me not want to go. But I have to go because I promised myself in 2025 I was going to take care of myself. Completely a different tangent, but you can thank the VA for sending me a million messages at one time. Jesus, VA. I tell people all the time, like, if you got no chance or no choice, anything out there, you kind of just like, flailing around, join the military, join the Air Force, join the Army, join the Marines, the Navy, the Space Guard, Space Force, sorry, go join them. And now I feel like don't do it. Just the relentless amount of emails and all the other nonsense that's going on. Just don't do it anymore. I'm joking. Obviously, I'm joking. Am I though? Okay. So that was the issue, right? And what I'm doing right now is just kind of clearing up some of the stuff that was brought up yesterday towards me as the Dallas Cowboys fan. Yes, Jerry Jones dominated the press conference, but the reason why he dominated the press conference is because he was asked the questions. What's he supposed to do? Jerry, answer this question for me. Oh, Brian, why don't you give it a shot? That's not how it's going to happen, guys. It's just not how it's going to happen. Okay, so I'm going to end today's show because I'm getting another phone call from the VA. And before my mind blows up, I have to answer this call. So everyone, I want to thank you so much for tuning in to the Tipping Point with Mike Tipton. I will be back tomorrow, hopefully uninterrupted by stupid phone calls because I've gotten them every 20 minutes for the last hour. It's annoying. I got things I need to do, guys. Thank you. But I appreciate you all being a part of today's show. We will see you tomorrow. I think tomorrow we're just going to do a fan day. Let's make it all about the fans. Get you all ask the questions. I'll give you all the answers. We'll see you tomorrow. Have yourselves a great, great Thursday.